I had always thought lighthouses were safe, stoic, guiding lights for the lost. That summer, I took the keeper's job on Crow's Point, a tiny, storm-battered island miles from the mainland. The old lighthouse had been abandoned for years. No tourists, no boats, just the relentless crash of the sea and the wind that never seemed to sleep. The first night, I climbed the spiraling iron staircase to the top, lantern in hand, trying to shake the unease settling deep in my bones. The lamp hadn't worked in decades, but after a bit of coaxing, I got it lit. The beacon swung lazily across the waves, a weak halo against the thick, swirling fog. But then I noticed something strange. Shadows. They weren't from the lamp, but from behind me, stretching long and thin across the floor. I spun around. Nothing. Just empty walls and the echo of my own boots on the iron stairs. I laughed nervously. "It's just the wind," I told myself, my voice barely a whisper against the gale. But later, I began to hear voices. They were low, unintelligible murmurs carried on the wind from the edge of the cliffs. Whispers that seemed to rise from the dark water itself. They weren't calling to me, not at first, but I could feel them watching, observing, and slowly, a horrifying realization dawned on me. I couldn't leave. Every attempt to descend the lighthouse was met with a dense, impenetrable fog that never lifted, no matter how fast I moved. It was like the island itself was holding me captive. On the third night, the whispers grew louder, clearer. "Stay, stay." They moaned in a chilling unison that vibrated through the stone walls. I could barely breathe, a heavy weight pressing on my chest, yet I felt an undeniable compulsion to climb to the top, back to the lantern room. When I reached it, I saw them, figures in the mist, tall and faceless, their eyes glinting like wet stones in the weak light. They moved in perfect silence, circling the lighthouse, getting closer and closer. One reached for the glass. I watched, paralyzed, as it pressed its face against the window. Its mouth opened impossibly wide, stretching into a silent scream that I could feel in my mind, a psychic shriek that tore at my sanity. The beacon's light flickered once, twice, and then went out, plunging me into absolute darkness. In that suffocating blackness, I felt a cold hand grip my shoulder. I spun around, nothing. But when I turned back to the window, the figures were closer, their shapes almost inside the room. Panicked, I grabbed the emergency flare from my pack and slammed it against the glass with all my might. The red flare exploded in a brilliant, blinding light, and for a precious moment, the figures dissolved back into mist. I didn't wait. I ran. Down the stairs, my feet pounding a frantic rhythm on the iron, but each step felt longer, heavier, as if the lighthouse itself was resisting me, trying to pull me back. Behind me, I heard the slow, dragging sound of footsteps that weren't mine, echoing in the spiraling darkness, following me, relentless and unhurried. When I finally reached the bottom, the heavy wooden door wouldn't open. It was jammed shut. I was trapped. Then, a single voice, clearer than all the others, whispered right beside my ear, "Why did you come back?" I turned, my heart a hammer in my throat. A figure stood at the edge of the landing. A girl, maybe 10 years old, pale as the fog, her eyes hollow and endless. She tilted her head, and a slow, unnerving smile stretched across her face, a smile that didn't reach her vacant eyes. "You belong here now," she said. In that instant, the door flew open. I bolted into the fog, not daring to look back. I don't know how long I ran, my lungs burning, the jagged rocks tearing at my clothes. But when I finally risked a glance over my shoulder, the lighthouse was gone. Just a jagged rock and the crashing waves. I never returned to Crow's Point. I never told anyone what really happened. But sometimes, on stormy nights, when the wind howls just right, I swear I can see a faint light swinging in the far distance, and I can hear whispers on the wind, calling me back.
You weren't supposed to see her.
It started with a scratching. Not random, not frantic. Slow, deliberate, like someone dragging their nails across wood, just behind the walls. 3 weeks ago, I moved into an old Victorian house on Elm Street. Dark red brick, white trim peeling like dead skin, tall windows that reflected more shadow than light. The realtor called it a steal. Quiet street, no close neighbors, original woodwork. She never mentioned the warmth in the walls. The first night, The scratching came from behind the bedroom wall, too rhythmic to be rats, too controlled, almost patient. I ignored it. Old houses settle, they breathe, that's what people say. By the fifth night, the scratching stopped, and the whispering began. Soft at first, like air slipping through cracks, then clearer. Sarah. My name, over and over, always from the same spot in the wall. I pressed my ear against the plaster. It was warm, not from pipes, from something alive beneath the paint. That night, sleep abandoned me. The whispers started telling stories, my stories, things no one else knew. The candy I stole when I was 7, the fight with my sister, the scar I pretended wasn't my fault. The voice sounded like mine, but older, ragged, like it had been screaming for decades. In the morning, I called a contractor. He cut into the wall. No pipes, no wiring, just insulation. And scratch marks, deep, long, parallel, like fingers clawing outward. He laughed, patched the hole, left. That night, the whispers were furious. You let him see me. I didn't sleep. At 3:07 a.m., the wall bulged. Not cracked, not shifted, bulged, as if something pressed its face against the plaster from the inside. I grabbed a hammer and swung. Dust exploded. Inside the wall was a mirror, old, cracked, buried there deliberately. It reflected my face, but my reflection blinked when I didn't. The whispers laughed. Now you see me. Hands pushed through the glass, not breaking it, but flowing through it like liquid. More bulges formed along the walls, more hands, more pressure. The house wasn't old, it was alive, and it knew me. I ran. The hallway stretched longer with every step. The floor softened beneath my feet, pulling me down like wet skin. Faces formed in the wallpaper, my face, twisted, trapped. You can't leave! My voice screamed from every wall. You're part of me now. They say the house on Elm Street is empty again, but if you listen closely at night, you'll hear scratching and a voice calling your name. Come closer.
You weren't supposed to see her.
I slowed down without realizing it. I don't remember deciding to. My foot just eased off the gas. Ahead, a sign read Welcome to Marrow Creek. Behind it, there were buildings, real ones. A diner, a gas station, a row of houses that looked lived in. And yet, my hands were shaking. Because this stretch of road had always been empty. For years, no construction, no detours, no announcements. A whole town doesn't just appear overnight. I told myself the obvious lie. I must have taken a wrong turn. But the road was the same, the trees were the same. Even the pothole near mile marker 17 was still there. The town was the only new thing. I checked my phone, no signal. That wasn't unusual out here, but what was unusual was the silence. No wind, no birds, no distant traffic. Just the low hum of my engine, and the feeling that the town was watching me. I should have kept driving. That's the part one replay the most. I could have driven straight through. But then I saw someone standing outside the diner. A man in a dark jacket, hands in his pockets, smiling like he'd been waiting. I pulled over. The diner bell rang when I stepped inside. The smell hit me, first coffee, grease, something sweet underneath that I couldn't place. There were people sitting at the counter. All of them turned to look at me, not startled, not curious, relieved. Morning, the waitress said. She already had a cup of coffee in her hand, black, no sugar, exactly how I drink it. You're right on time, she added. I hadn't told her my name. I hadn't told her anything. The walls were covered in photographs, families, parades, graduations, normal things. But as I looked closer, my stomach tightened. One photo showed a man cutting a ribbon at what looked like the opening of the town. The man was younger. But it was me, same crook nose, same scar above my eyebrow. I dropped the coffee cup. It shattered on the floor. No one reacted. First day's always the hardest, the man from outside said, sliding into the booth across from me. Up close, his eyes were wrong. Too familiar. You don't remember yet, he said gently. But you will. Remember what? I asked him where I was. He just smiled again. Home, I ran, out the door, back to my car. The town felt different now, closer, tighter. The buildings leaned in, just slightly, like they didn't want me to leave. I started the engine and hit the gas. The road stretched ahead of me, too far, too straight. The trees on either side blurred together, repeating like a broken image. No matter how long I drove, the town didn't disappear. The welcome sign passed by again, and again, and again, my phone buzzed. 1 bar of signal. A notification. Missed call, Mom, I answered immediately. She didn't sound panicked. She sounded confused. Who is this? She asked. I laughed, relief flooding in. Mom, it's me. There was a silence. Then softly, I don't have a son. The call ended. When I stopped screaming, I realized something worse. I couldn't remember my apartment, or my job, or the city I was driving toward. Every memory past this road felt thin, incomplete, like a dream dissolving after you wake up. The town, on the other hand, it felt solid. Night felt too fast. The streetlights flickered on all at once. Every house had a light glowing inside. Doors opened, people stepped out, all of them looking at me, waiting. The man from the diner stood at the center of the street. You can stop fighting it, he said. The world outside forgets fast. It always does. I asked him what this place was. He looked almost sad. A replacement, he said. They don't take you by force. They let you fade. Every town needs people. Every story needs characters. When someone is forgotten, truly forgotten. Marrow Creek makes room. The photos on the walls update. The memories rewrite. And the road? The road makes sure no one comes looking. I don't know how long I've been here now. Time works differently. I help run the diner sometimes. People wave when they pass. They know my name. I almost do too. Yesterday, a car slowed down near the sign. A woman behind the wheel, confused, curious, just like I was. I stepped outside and smiled. And for a moment, I thought I recognized her. If you're driving alone and see a town that shouldn't exist, don't stop, because if you do, someone out there is about to forget you ever did.
Weren't supposed to see her.
It started as a routine dive off the coast of Nova Scotia. The submersible team was mapping an uncharted trench when our instruments picked up something anomalous, a signal. It was low, rhythmic, almost like a melody. It didn't sound mechanical, and it certainly wasn't natural. It felt alive. Captain Harlow, ever the explorer, ordered us to investigate. We pushed deeper. The trench walls just fell away into complete darkness, stretching far deeper than any of our maps suggested. As we descended, that strange signal grew stronger. It began to vibrate through the very hull of our sub, a deep hum that felt like it was resonating inside my own bones. My crewmates tried to make jokes, to keep the nerves at bay, but their laughter sounded thin and hollow in the confined space. We were all on edge. At 2,300 meters, the sonar revealed a structure. It was impossible. Something metallic, yet organic, and just enormous. Imagine a cathedral built from black coral and steel, stretching endlessly into the dark void of the trench. And the signal? It was coming from inside. We decided to dock our submersible at an opening that looked almost like an airlock. Our lights barely penetrated the inky blackness, revealing nothing but jagged, shifting shadows. And then the humming stopped. The silence was absolute, deafening. A sudden, violent jolt shook the sub. Our systems flickered, emergency lights kicking on and off. And that's when I saw it through the main viewport. Movement. Long, sinuous shapes, hundreds of them, coiling around the structure like ancient guardians, just observing us. Their eyes, countless and endless, reflected our lights back at us. Then the signal resumed, but it was different this time. Louder, and now intelligible. A voice. It wasn't speaking any language we knew, but somehow we all understood it. Why do you disturb us? The entire crew froze. I realized the voice wasn't coming from our speakers. It was inside my head. Each one of us heard it, separately, personally. It felt like it was prying into our minds, pulling out memories, fears, regrets, laying our very souls bare. We panicked. We had to get out of there. We tried to retreat, but the trench had changed. The rock walls twisted and elongated, as if the very seabed was alive. The exit I had charted just moments before was gone. One by one, my crewmates began to scream, not out loud, but I could feel it, this psychic wave of terror. They were confronting visions too real, too personal to survive. I gritted my teeth, holding on to whatever shred of consciousness I had left. The signal pulsed faster like a monstrous heartbeat. Our little submersible trembled, and the instruments went completely haywire, screens flashing red, and then I understood. It wasn't just a signal, it was a lure, a test. It was testing us to see if we were capable of comprehending its existence, or if we would simply be consumed by it. With the last ounce of my willpower, I slammed the emergency ascent button. The sub shot upward, tearing through the warping trench. That signal followed us, a banshee wail echoing in the water, and worse, echoing in my skull. We finally broke through the waves at the surface, gasping for air, our hearts pounding against our ribs. We immediately radioed back to HQ, our voices shaking. They ran their own scans. The report came back clean. The trench was empty. There was nothing on their sonar, but I know what we saw. I know what we heard. They might say it was mass hysteria, some kind of deep-sea psychosis, but the signal, it's still here, a faint whisper in the back of my mind, waiting for the next curious explorers to dive too deep. Somewhere below, something ancient watches, and it remembers. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe for more tales from the deep.